What do I think about legumes? Interesting question I'll be answering in today's episode of Ask Yuri.
Ask Yuri. You've got a health and fitness question? I've got an answer.
All right, guys, so Etienne has asked me a question on my Facebook page. He basically just wants to know what I think of legumes. And I don't think I've done a video on legumes, so here we go. So legumes are things like beans, lentils, and that whole category of stuff, okay? Peanuts are actually considered a legume as well. And there's good and kind of pros and cons to legumes. Now I'll start with the cons. The cons are that legumes contain levels of lectins. Lectins are anti-nutrients, kind of like gluten, but not quite, similar enough. And again, these are anti-nutrients that cause some issues digestively in the body, inflammation, stuff like that. So it's a bit tricky, okay? The pros to legumes are that they're very high in protein. Lentils, sprouted lentils especially, are very high in protein. They're good sources, lentils in general, beans and lentils in general, good source of fiber, good source of starchy whole carbohydrates. And so it's a bit tricky. You want to balance out, okay, not getting in too many lectins with the benefits of what they provide. In terms of the legumes and beans themselves. So what can you do? Well, you can do things like with lentils, you can sprout them. Sprouting actually reduces their lectin content and increases their protein bioavailability. I wouldn't necessarily sprout beans like kidney beans too much, but there's a ton of other beans like mung beans are great. There's a number of beans that are actually really good, really actually a lot better when sprouted in terms of reducing their lectin content and increasing their protein and overall nutrient bioavailability. The best way to do that is soak them in water overnight, then put them in a straining jar. It'll take them, maybe 2-3 days to fully sprout, and then you can add them into your salads. Just tremendous. I mean, for me personally, legumes like lentils, when they're sprouted, taste so much better. Like sprouted lentils are just, you bite into them and it's like this burst of water and flavor. It's just awesome, and I find they're a lot more appetizing. Then when you cook lentils, they just become kind of mushy and dry. So it really depends on what you're making, but that's pretty much where we're at with legumes, okay? So I wouldn't overdo legumes because just historically, again, if we look at where we came from and what we ate, hundreds of thousands of years ago, we didn't really eat legumes, okay? It's kind of one of those newer things like grains, so we shouldn't overdo them. And if we are going to eat them, most of the time it should be sprouted, really for best benefits. So, Chen, hopefully that answers your questions about legumes. Don't go crazy with them. You don't have to avoid them like the plague. Find that happy balance in between. All right? Thanks for your question. And don't forget to join me on Facebook and subscribe to these videos somewhere up above here. And you can ask me your questions. I'll be sure to answer them in the future. Talk to you soon.